Hey there. Welcome to All Things Social Security. I'm Stephanie Joy. Whether you are a first-time viewer, an occasional viewer, a subscriber, or one of the three tiered benefactor members, I want to welcome you and let your video begin. Remember, if you haven't checked out the memberships, it might be something up your alley because it gives you an opportunity for a little more Social Security disability attorney attention if you need it, but don't have representation and don't want to do a full-fledged consultation. Okay, have a great one, guys. Stay tuned. Hey, guys. Uh, Today I was working with somebody who does a small self-employed business while a pending disability claim is going on. It's obviously a very small business. And I know some people don't understand that if you are doing anything that you are charging for on your own, you don't have to be an LLC or a S Corp or something official to still be, for sure, a self-employed business, in which case you have to file tax returns in most of those cases. So in any event, as you know, anybody who's working, whether it's self-employed or, for an employer, W-2, or self-employed with 1099, such as giggers that work for big companies or have big companies as their main customer, however you want to look at it. They have the opportunity and the privilege, I suppose, of expensing out the business expenses that it took to make that revenue come in the door. So everyone self-employed, you know, engages in this and uses the IRS information to determine what's a legitimate write-off, as they say, or AKA a business expense. So anyway, there's this page on Investopedia actually that gives a cute little list, and I thought it was helpful because it's the most common business expenses. So I'm going to go down them for you in case you are someone who is in this predicament or considering, starting up a little small neighborhood business, make $500 a month or something like that. Something you can do very part-time despite your disabilities that, of course, doesn't rise to SGA in the slightest and perhaps not even TWP. So the first one they give is raw materials. This is the first on the list, and I'll link this down below. I presume this would be something like, let's say you like to make jewelry, beaded jewelry or whatnot. When you buy the materials that you then make the product with, you're going to write off the cost of those materials, the beads, right? I know in my kind of business, there is no such, we don't have raw materials. So we don't get that particular luxury. Storage, if you had to store the goods, you would presumably be able to write off the expense, whether it's the rent or whatever of the storage place, if you pay for it to store your raw materials or your finished product or what have you. Repair and maintenance is something else. And I'm not even sure what that would be necessarily, if that would be maybe repair and maintenance of the location maybe, or maybe equipment, not sure. But it's on the list. So just things to look out for. Transportation and car expenses. This is huge for those of us that travel a lot. We might be driving to clients' houses or meeting places, a lot of meetings with clients or with networking with colleagues, that kind of thing. Or yeah, different locations where one might work out of. I know I work out of a few different places, just trying to get out there a little bit. So mileage, car expenses, I don't really probably write off what I should. I probably am a little skimpy, but the mileage is big, and car expenses, I know I see that when the taxes are done, the things that you can feasibly expense out, the portion of which is used for business, and what part of your registration, what part of your, I suppose, your inspection, all those things. I don't quite get that nitpicky, but utilities is the next one on the list. And that would be utilities in the place that is the business place. And that's going to be a little term of art because I know there's home offices and I know there's a home office deduction, or you can get more specific and follow, I suppose, all of the expenses of the home, but which portion of the home is used for business, et cetera, et cetera. It gets a little complicated. I go, because I'm not into complicated. I go with probably it loses, I probably lose taxes on this, but I just do the standard with the home office. Interest. Now this one's interesting. If you use, I believe this is what it is. And I just remember this years ago from my tax accountant. If you are using a credit card, for instance, to buy those raw materials we were talking about, or anything else business related, it could be supplies, office supplies, whatever, and you have to pay interest on that credit card debt that you now put on it because you didn't pay it off at the end of the month, that interest on that portion that was spent for those those business related expenses, the interest is also apparently a business expense. And that makes sense mathematically to me. Some startup costs they talk about. I'm not even sure what those all would necessarily be. It seems to me that could be very, very broad. Taxes, I would presume certain taxes, I suppose, if they're business related. Bad debts. I'm not sure what they mean by that. Bad debts. The expense of bad debts. Not sure. Wages and salaries. Obviously, if you hire people, they might be W-2s for you, or you hire them as employees and went through all that rigmarole, or perhaps they're contractors and you give them 1099s. That would certainly be, that's something we certainly use. Rent, if you rent your business space, that would clearly be a business expense. Insurance, for me, we have, legal malpractice insurance, errors and omissions, that kind of thing. There could be potentially business insurance. There could be liabilities of other kinds for different kinds of businesses. I think there would also be business interruption insurance potentially as well. Advertising, that one can get pretty pricey. For those that advertise a lot, that's really expensive. Office expenses. I think they might include an office expense of things like communication. That would be the cell phone, the internet, if you are in the internet, perhaps with a website. If there's a cost of a website, that could feasibly be advertising. I think for us, it's advertising because it's all about message and all. Lots of things in there. Supplies, that's kind of obvious. Pens, paper, envelopes, stamps, ink for the printers. Those are really pricey. Travel expenses, if you travel far, I do that sometimes, and I go work kind of far away, and I try to meet people where I am and spread, because I'm national. So I have clients, I don't know if I currently have all 50 states. I doubt it, but I don't know if there's a state I haven't had. There probably is, but by and large, it's all across the country. So I don't necessarily go to the furthest ends of the country, but I do move around a bit. I like to get out there. Meals and entertainment expenses. I know this has varied recently with COVID. They were giving a much higher amount you could business expense out when you were taking clients out, taking employees out, eating on the road, that kind of thing. Oh, by the way, the travel expenses would include the hotels and stuff like that too. And meals and entertainment, so that has changed. I think it's gone back to be a little more reserved. And when you can write off entertainment expenses, I think people might have a tendency of taking advantage of that. So that is no longer the same, I don't think, as of this year, but you really have to just talk to your tax preparer or accountant. But those are some of the things that, when you get your self-employment revenue, you can think of all these things that you can and probably will want to deduct, unless there's some reason why you don't necessarily want to pay too much less taxes on the income you brought in. And I've talked about this in other videos. I don't think that there is a requirement that we fight tooth and nail for every business expense write-off we can get. I don't think so. I think you can pay on the whole kit and caboodle and not bother. If someone knows differently, let me know. But I've never heard of Uncle Sam saying, you must write that off and pay us less taxes. Never heard of that. And sometimes you want to make enough income if you're not insured for Social Security disability, so that you're still gaining those credits. This would be for somebody who has not yet applied for SSD because they're not yet insured, because they haven't paid in enough of the quote unquote premiums to earn the Social Security credits that will get them insured status, and then they can file under disability. So if you don't have those credits, it doesn't take very much part-time work income to earn a credit, or to earn all 4 credits over the course of the year. That's the maximum you can earn. But if you're writing off if you have like a hobby that's turning kind of into a business because you're making money, and you have to report it, it might not be very much at first, but as it starts to grow, you might be hitting the amount where you start making enough to earn a credit, earn 2, 3, 4 credits. So writing off all of if your goal is to earn credits and become insured, writing off all your expenses and fighting tooth and nail for every single one, or stretching things, is probably not necessarily a good idea, because then you're not going to get your credits and you're never going to be insured. So sometimes you just got to buck up and pay those taxes, and get your insured status, because it's also going to affect your retirement benefit, even if you're not going to file or prevail on a Social Security disability case. Okay, so I'm just throwing this out there because it is tax time, and I have not filed my taxes yet. I've been, we're working on them, but it's the thing I kind of avoid, I usually have to come up with money at the end of the year. So I'm not very good at estimating, because everything varies so much in this field. So anyway, for those of you who are doing self-employed or gigger, or are thinking about doing it and filing, those are things that I would take a look at. All right, take care. Bye, guys.